Now
Probert got the right hand free.
He's loose to the right hand, and he starts to retaliate, and down goes Nyland, and the two of them are hammering each other.
Knights of Columbus, that hurt.
It's old-time hockey, the way you're supposed to play. You throw a little lumber if a guy gets in your way. You play like Gordie Howe or Eddie fucking Shore. We can't all be Gretzky's, the Muse or Bobby Orr's. Hey.
The enforcer of all hockey podcasts. It's the Biscuit. It's the Biscuit.
Damn it! Sex goal regulation size are what?
The enforcer of all hockey podcasts.
God help the fucking day if fighting's ever banned. As our country will stop working on so bad this fucking cans.
Hi, everybody. It's the Biscuit Podcast.
Hey, you wanna go? Yeah, okay. Good luck to you too, buddy.
All right, Biscuit babies. I told you I'd get a special guest for episode 100, and I did not fuck around. I delivered. I've got Adam Scorgie, guest from episode 32. That is 68 episodes ago. Actually, I think it was on Canada Day last year. You would know him from Ice Guardians, making Coco's coming out. He's a mega producer, actor, former male model. Adam Scorgie, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Yeah, definitely former in the male model partners these days.
Now, are you the busiest guy in showbiz, or what's the deal there? It seems like you're just constantly hustling, man.
I don't know. I'd probably put myself up there, at least on the Canadian side. I try to keep active, even with or without the support of the industry. I keep my team as busy as possible, so I take that as a big compliment too. Yes, I try to be really busy. Thank you. Yeah,
my hat's off to you, man. I swear, it's like if you don't have 4 movies going on, I don't know what I would do.
Yeah, that's a fortunate problem I've only recently come into now, where luckily enough, I've been able to only do projects I'm passionate about, and now, because the work speaks for itself that my team and I have been able to deliver, we just have so much content getting thrown at us that, and I wanted to do as many as I could without, physically like breaking down or, lack of quality in our work showing. So yeah, we're in a spot right now where we're releasing one, we're in post on 2, we're about to begin production of another one, and then I'm pitching 2 new ones at TIFF this weekend. I fly out tomorrow, actually, so. And for those listening don't know what TIFF is, I do this all the time because I just say it for the acronym of my business, but it's the Toronto International Film Festival. So
are they just going to give you Prime Minister, or how does that work?
No, I don't think so. I'm sure with like all things in life, the more you succeed in one aspect, I'm sure there's the more people that hate me on other sides. But well, I don't have too much hate yet, because I think, and I model myself that I try to treat my crews and everybody I work with the utmost integrity and honesty. I know I'm pissing off a lot of other producers because I do things that totally break the mold of the stuff that I hated when I was starting in the industry, of like not being transparent with your budgets and not being honest with your crew. Those are some producer traits that have been around for years. Mm-hmm. And I work exactly the opposite. And I know a lot of producers fucking hate that I do that.
Yeah.
But, it's something that I hated, where I don't know in any other business where you can't show budgets, but in the film business, you would go to produce with something and they only show you like the top sheet of the budget, like the financial scenario, like where your money's coming from. They don't show you where it's getting spent. But in any other business, that's ludicrous. Like, you can't just, if you're building a house, like, here's the building price. Well, no, I want to know how much the frames, the trusses, and like, what does that cost? Like, no, we're just going to tell you the final price.
Yeah.
You don't get to see the breakdown of cost. Right? It's crazy, but it's been going on for years because it's tough to get into the industry. But, now with digital, making a lot more young people that didn't have kind of the equity or the connections to get their hands on film processing equipment and film cameras, more people are able to get in, and that's how guys like me and my teams were able to break into the industry, and those are some of the bad habits that I'm trying to break.
Well, good on you, man. And you had mentioned there earlier that, putting in and grinding for as long as you did there, now that you've gotten to a point where you can just do passion projects, man, that has to feel good. Like you got there, man. You did it, and now it's just doing things you want to do and then doing them well, because everything you're putting out is just badass. I mean, congratulations on all the success for Ice Guardians. I think I spoke to you last right before it was coming out on DVD and before Netflix or anything like that was announced, and I'm sure that was huge for the documentary. And it's amazing that you can continue on and doing things you like from the success of all the hard work that you put in.
Thanks, brother. It took a lot of years of eating shit.
Yeah.
And being told to get a real job, and you got to give this up, and you can't make movies for a living to finally get here. So I constantly remind not only myself but my team. I'm constantly pinching myself, like when we're on set. Like we were on set with Grant Fuhr for making Coco. So it was Grant, Marty McSorley, Craig McTavish, Kevin Lowe. 17 cups won between the four of them, won 18 holes of golf.
Good Lord.
Golf carts, having beer, going out, filming this thing with the guys. And I reminded my team probably 10 times that day, I'm like, this is what we're getting paid to do. Take note of this.
Yeah.
Because this is like, I've done the other jobs. I've dug ditches. I've walked, cathodic protection surveys for gas and oil pipelines. I've bartended. I've catered. I've served. I've bartended, at gay parties with just my underwear and stuff like that. I've done it to earn the cash and to put my grind in. So now that I'm able to just make films full time, and this is how I support my family, and then I get to be really picky about the content that my team does, I constantly remind myself how fortunate I am.
Oh, fuck.
I'm able to do that for a living.
Nobody gets to join that golf crew. And that's like, especially, a kid from Alberta, that's like a dream come true.
Yeah, it was, we kept, like I said, I constantly, my co-producers with us, I kept being on like, dude, just think, this is what we're getting paid to do. And it was like, we were working that day, we were filming, but like, I'm going to be honest, it wasn't a very tough day of filming.
not the hardest day of work ever.
No. I've done much more difficult, that's for sure.
Yeah, man. Were you guys surprised by all the accolades of Ice Guardians? Like Sports Illustrated giving it Best of Film in 2016. Newsweek featured it as a favorite documentaries of that year. I know the Rosies, I think it's an Alberta thing. You were nominated for 4 of those. The movie, the film is incredible, but Sports Illustrated and Newsweek, that's top tier shit, man.
Yeah, that's one of those things where you dream it, like when you have this idea to create something, you have this idea of like, oh, imagine it could do this, and we could do this, and it could win these awards, and get this kind of critical acclaim and the respect from the players. But then when it happens, it's super surreal.
Yeah.
You're in the moment trying to be like, oh, I can't believe this is actually happening. Like you said, like the Sports Illustrated article and Newsweek, and then getting nominated for the awards. And probably the biggest accolade for my team, though, is, the respect from the players.
Yeah.
I can't tell you where I'm at things now. Even when we first, sat down with Grant Fuhr to do his project, he literally stopped the conference call and was just like, hey, Adam, I just want to let you know I've watched Ice Guardians, and I absolutely loved it.
Wow.
And I'm excited that you're the one that's helping produce my story.
Wow, man.
And of course, during the conference call, I'm like, yeah, absolutely, Grant, we're really excited. That's cool. I'm glad you checked out the film. But, like, I remember driving home that day being like, man, I grew up as a kid idolizing Grant and the team, and now he's excited that I'm producing his story.
Dude, that's crazy.
It's a real... I'm not trying to get too emotional on your podcast, but it was a lot of the moments that happened the last couple of years. Been like, is this really happening? Like, are you kidding me? Like, again, I make sure to check in with that because I have an understanding life is precious, and I've been through a lot of shit to get here. And
right.
Many years where I'm sure, like everybody on their path to whatever career they want to do, there's times where you're just exhausted and fed up, and the world often seems against you in a lot of things, especially things, passion projects.
Mm-hmm.
When they're getting the ground off, you have a lot of naysayers of people saying you're stupid and you need to give up and this is a dumb idea and all those things. I had them like anybody else, probably even more so because my passion project was film and television, and that seems kind of unrealistic if you didn't grow up in that industry.
Right.
So, I make a point this last year. It's been really special for me where it's often just being like, man, I can't believe I get to do this for a living. And I bring this up even with my kids all the time when we're talking. Like, my daughter's like, I don't want to go to school today. I'm like, Riley, it doesn't matter what you want to do. If you want to be a pro hockey player, you want to be a lawyer, or you want to be whatever, you're going to have days that there's things you don't want to do that are miserable and they're down and negative, and you have to overcome those. Like, even what I do now, there are days, like when I have to go do government applications for our tax credits and stuff like that to finance our film, those are miserable. Like doing government applications. Right?
Yeah.
And everyone's like, Adam, you become such a wizard at them. You must like it a little bit. I'm like, no, I despise it. I literally have nightmares about having to do the paperwork the night before because I hate it so much. But I love being in production. I love that this is what I'm able to do for a living, so that forces me to get through that. And something I speak to when I do panels and stuff all the time, I really try to say, like, look, if a guy like me can do it, you can do it, because I'm horrible at that stuff. Like, absolutely, I'm horrible at paperwork. I was horrible at math. I was told by my teachers, like, all my life, you're going to be, you know, a reject, and you're an idiot, and you're in the dumb class for math kids and all that stuff. But when I found something I was passionate about, and then the math that's required for film, well, that I was able to do because it makes sense to me.
Well, that's good that you keep that head on your shoulders too, and then and spread that word too. So as people listen to like podcasts or panels that you're doing, that they know even when you're successful that you can still be grounded and understand, you know, what it took to get here, and especially in a time when it seems like, you know, a lot of people can just put up a YouTube video and boom, like there it is, and you know, there's not a lot of work into it. That's a good example to set for. Even like someone myself, you know, doing this for coming up on 3 years, it's good to have people to look forward to and to look up to, like you, in the business, and especially in hockey, and spreading the good word of the sport we love. I mean, it's hard to get hockey in Sports Illustrated, let alone a documentary about hockey in Sports Illustrated. So you're definitely doing something right. And I know you brought up Riley. I wanted to mention her too. She was named ESPN Best Player in the World this year.
Yeah, for a week. I mean, what a cool,
wow,
you know, turnaround story for her, right? As this 11-year-old girl that gets diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome. Looks like Guillain-Barré for those that are listening, but I think it's pronounced Guillain-Barré.
See, I thought it was Gillian.
An immune system disorder that she got. Luckily, it was just a one-off thing. It shouldn't come back, doctors don't think. But, I mean, she got to the point where she couldn't even walk up the stairs.
God.
And her face drooped like Bell's palsy, and they weren't sure if it was multiple sclerosis or muscular dystrophy or all bad things. But she bounced back within, you know, like a month or two because she was young and, you know, didn't get it that bad as far as Guillain-Barré goes, because some people can actually be put in a wheelchair and have their lungs have to be assisted and everything. Like, she never got that bad, although I would consider a 12-year-old not being able to walk up the stairs.
That's pretty bad.
Crawl, pretty bad as a parent, right?
Yeah,
so it was not good for me, but or her mom. But yeah, she bounced back and always looked at it positive when the doctor would be like, well, you know, Adam, like, she might not be able to, you know, her symptoms could progressively get worse, and it could last anywhere from 1 month to 1 year. She would only hear 1 month, and she's like, well, Dad, I can get back on skates in 1 month. You heard the doctor. And we never wanted to tell her otherwise, because, you know, the little bit of understanding I have about the medical world is that the mind can play a lot of things on this. If you have a positive outlook, you can certainly, like, bounce back from things better than someone who has a negative outlook. It causes, you know, more depression. Or so we were always like, yeah, sweetie, like, hopefully you can, but, you know, don't put too much pressure on yourself. And she bounced right back. And then she didn't get to do tryouts or evaluations. She missed those, though, because she couldn't even stand on skates for a while there. And then once she got her confidence back, she went and lit it up. She was tiered too low because she didn't get evaluated. So she was put in like a D division, and she got 112 points in like 30 games or something like that. But it was fun for her to see her bounce back. And you know, good for her to build her confidence. She still goes to a hockey academy where games, like everyone in her academy, she's one of only a handful of girls, and they're all AA and AAA boys. So we never felt worried about her development because she got that at her hockey academy, and then her team that she played on, which they appropriately named Ice Guardians.
Nice.
She was able to just have a lot of fun and build confidence. So it was a fun season for her. She really if she didn't love hockey before, she absolutely loves it now.
Oh yeah, I saw that at the point she got Player of the World that week. It was like 50 goals through 19 games or something like that. Just remarkable, man.
It was insane. Like, you play teams and to the point where she still wore a pink helmet last year that they would mark her, right?
There she is.
Just some teams that were competitive teams. It wasn't always like we won every game, but there would be certain teams where it was really, she was, she's 3 divisions above these teams. And she would even say, Dad, I felt bad after like the 8th point. I thought I should just cool off.
That's what you whisper, nah, honey, just pile it on.
She had a pink helmet, so they would target. You could hear them because we didn't have names on their sweaters this year. So people would be like, you hear the coaches as soon as she get on the ice, they're like, pink helmet. So we bought her another helmet, and she loved this thing where she'd switch helmets in between periods.
Oh, that's hilarious.
The coaches couldn't figure it out. They're like, wait, where's that? Damn it, she's got a new helmet. Right? And then even her other teammates, like, they loved it. They thought it was a little game where they would be like sacrificial lambs, and they would be like, okay, well, I'll wear the pink helmet. Riley's, well, I don't want you to do that. And they're like, no, it's okay. We need to win this game to get into the playoffs, so I'll wear it so they come after me, and then you go down the ice and you score. It was a fun season. It was a fun season. I'm
going to need her autograph before she gets starts winning gold medals and all that. Because I'm an OG Riley fan.
She's fun. It's and then after all that she went through that, with overcoming that adversity and then the media attention she got, and then she was really happy that she tried out for the Junior Pandas, which is like the Pandas are the university team here, girls university team, and they've won the nationals like 6 or 7 times. Really, really elite girls team, and she made the junior spring team, and it's the first team that, because she'd missed tryouts, that she really tried out hard for and made, and it was she like I said, I couldn't express more. She had a great year. She had a lot of fun. Yeah, good for her, and I'm happy to hear that she beat. I say Jillian Bear. I know it's not right, but I'm glad she got rid of that. That's great news. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, it was scary as parents there for a while, especially when we heard stories from other people about like how bad their Guillain-Barré was, or how it lasted to their mother for 5 years, or so it was. And there was one day when she wanted to go test her skating to try to do tryouts. Yeah. In a high tempo camp, and it was horrifying. Ugh. She literally took like 2 steps on the ice, fell into the boards, and had to be helped off by the other girls. And the way she was walking, even with the help, it looked like a player that had been knocked out and was concussed and trying to walk back to the bench. Yeah. It was like, that's when we went right to the children's hospital and wanted to get a reevaluation and see what was going on. And it was like around midnight that night that they diagnosed her with Guillain-Barré. So yeah, I could only imagine, man. I'm a father of 3, and I don't even like when they get like the flu. Exactly. As a parent, and it sucks because it's not like anything else in life where my wife and I both pride ourselves on working hard, where if you have other adversity, you're like, okay, we can work harder, we can save money, we can pinch here, we can do this, and we can we can overcome this. But when your kid's sick, you can't do anything. You just be supportive, and then you end up sometimes like my wife and I, because we're both aggressive, kind of I'd be in the hospital with Riley, and she'd be like, you need to ask him about this, I just Googled this, and you need to ask him. I'm like, stop Googling shit. But when you Google, that's a whole, things aren't working properly, balance is off, coordination, it's all bad. It's muscular dystrophy, multiple sclerosis, it's all bad stuff. Yeah. I'm like, stop. Yeah, you have to. You can't go down that hole. Yeah, I was like, I am in emergency right now in the Stollery Hospital, which is a children's hospital here in Edmonton, and they are fantastic. They are world-renowned. And I'm like, I am already in the best place you can be. Googling is not helping. So getting up to making Coco's coming out, and it's actually playing places now. Did you decide to start making that film after Ice Guardians had come out? How did it come about? Were you, because I mean, obviously, probably being from Alberta, you were a Grant Fuhr fan as a kid, but how did that come around? Where you're like, okay, this guy's story is incredible. Let's do my next film is making Coco. Well, the director, Don Metz, approached me, and he was originally supposed to be one of my producers on Ice Guardians, but for political reasons, he wasn't able to come on, but he did really help get that kind of off the ground. So he had approached me and said, look, we have this opportunity to do something with Grant. I've known Grant for 25 years, And, like, what do you think? And obviously, as an Oilers fan and stuff, I was like, wow, I'd love to do something on one of the, like, the Oilers from the Dynasty days, and I certainly know who Grant Fuhr is, but I didn't know a ton about his career. I was young then, right, 7, 8. Like, I remember cheering for the Oilers and, you know, knowing his name, obviously. But then when we really dove in and looked at his life story, like, you know, being the first black player to win a Stanley Cup, first black player to be put into the Hall of Fame.
Right.
You know, he was adopted as a child by white parents growing up in Spruce Grove, and, you know, then the suspension controversy and all that stuff. I was like, man, this guy actually has a fantastic story.
Really does.
And then for those that know Grant, he's a pretty quiet guy, right? Like, he's not a man of very few words. So that was another issue when we looked in. But then when we really sat down, and Don, knowing Grant so well, like, we really got him to open up. And something that lends itself super nice for Doc is, you know, whenever your interviewee or your subject matter is honest, I mean, can't ask for more. And Grant is brutally honest, like, and has been ever since his hockey days. He just wasn't, you know, very forthcoming in his wording. He's pretty simple in his sentencing, but he's always been a brutally honest guy.
Right.
And that was something you see even when you go back to the old archive of, that's actually how he got suspended for the cocaine use. It wasn't, he never failed the team test because there was no actual, like, team test or league test back then. In fact, the NHL didn't have any official rule for illegal substances at the time. Which is so bullshit. Like, that's why he'd never get suspended today. And the PA didn't have any rules to protect players that had substance abuse issues back then, but they felt that Grant had such a prolific career that it wouldn't really affect his career like it would some other players. So they thought it was okay for him to take it on the chin, and then they would use that in their next bargaining agreement with the NHL.
So it's politics.
Because Grant admitted it, that he was looking at originally at a lifetime ban. The NHL was looking at giving him a lifetime suspension.
Holy shit.
Which was then reduced to 1 year and then reduced to 40 games because of good behavior.
Now, see, for me too, when I heard that Making Coco was coming out, I, you know, obviously knew who Grant Fuhr was, but I was 4 years old in 1990, so, like, I'm not really familiar with that part of it. You know, where he was suspended and, you know, came back and ended up, you know, just like a great redemption story. I mean, and he's a prolific goalie. I mean, the records and accolades he has, and then you start getting into his story, and it's just like you had mentioned. He's quite the remarkable human. Besides being like one of the best goalies of all time, so it really is like a perfect storm.
That's what made it interesting for us, right? Is that, you know, I'd argue. I mean, I don't know some other, but he could have one of the most interesting careers as a Hall of Fame goalie.
For sure.
There's a lot of other guys that might have some better stats than Grant as a goalie, but to have the career he did and the ups and downs of what he went through and the racial barriers he broke, there's nobody.
Oh, and I mean, there's
we interviewed Jerome McGinley that just straight up said, he's like, Grant was a huge part of me becoming a professional hockey player, because when I was young, I'd have so many people, like, at a very young age, I wanted to be a pro hockey player. And he was like, Jerome, come on, like,
right.
How many other black guys do you see, man? Like, and Jerome was like, how do you not see Grant? You're right there. He's from Alberta, like me. He's from the township over. I'm from St. Albert. He's from Spruce Grove. Like, people were like, yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah, and
like, he's a 7-time All-Star, you know, name on the Hall of Fame waiting for him. And Jerome actually originally wanted to be a goalie because of Grant Fuhr. And that's another thing you found out when you go look at, like, nobody played goal like Grant did today. That's why he's so exciting.
No, I mean, he was one of the first dudes to have that kind of, he had a style about him.
Oh, yeah, he had flair, and he had these, you see his old, like, hockey cards, and there are these elaborate saves, these big things, these big glove saves. Like, here's the crazy thing we learned about Grant. He never had a professional goalie coach until he was in Buffalo.
Damn.
He'd already won 5 Stanley Cups before he had an NHL goalie coach, actually. And that's where he changed his style a little bit. Because he's like, when he was younger, he was so gifted with his agility that even if he was positionally bad, he could make up for it with his agility. So in his first year, in his rookie year, that's why he had such a great record. But then his sophomore year, some people figured him out, and he couldn't just rely on his agility. So he's like, man, I have to also be positionally correct. And that's what we have this old footage of, like, man, he comes out to challenge guys like 20 feet out of the net
Yeah, unheard of.
Crazy, where like he did these, these moves that you just don't see goaltenders do, and now making the film, when you see there's such this crazy fan base for Grant, you're like, and not just Oilers fans, there's a lot of people that are just goalie fans. They're like, oh man, nobody was as exciting. The only thing when we even say like who resembles Grant Fuhr today, people say maybe Jonathan Quick, right? Because he's little and he does some pretty acrobatic stuff, but really you can't compare him to another goalie because he didn't adopt the style. Grant created a style, and he was one of the few like left-handed goalies. Like when he started, they didn't even make gloves for left-handed. He had to play the opposite hand.
Yeah,
the first 2 years of his career.
The closest I could think of is Holtby, just because you'll see him come out of the crease and kind of play that wild style. But Holtby's a lot larger than Grant too, so then you kind of you exit that out as well. And it seemed like with Grant, it'd be like, okay, you could make a save here, but he's going to make it with a little bit of flair, almost to kind of like, yeah, buddy, how do you like that? Like he kind of talked shit with the way he saved pucks sometimes.
No, it's almost his way. Yeah, it was almost his way of intimidating another team.
Yeah,
right?
Truly.
Grant, like says in the thing, he was so comfortable in the net that he's like, that's where, when the suspension happened and everything outside of hockey went crazy for him, he's like, the net was always the one place where I can control everything that I do. I can control my whole life and scenarios all on me. And this is where, in the trailer, it caused a lot of buzz. Of course, you get fan basing. And when Wayne Gretzky says Grant is the greatest goaltender that ever played, people are like, come on, look at his stats, Brodeur, Belfour, Raw, look at these people. And where they're coming from is Wayne puts him on that pedestal because he's like, we didn't play defense. Like, we even have in the trailer, Paul Coffey was like, I don't block shot, right? Like, Paul Coffey was a third winger, right? Like, where Grant was hung out to dry many times. And we just interviewed, what's his name, or for an article that we did, I can't remember. Anyway, he was a player that said that he couldn't wait to play the Edmonton Oilers. He used to lick his chops because he's like, I knew every game we were getting 3 to 4 2-on-1s. Right. He's like, but Grant would still say 50% of those.
Well, isn't that a stat? Isn't he up there for like most shots faced, and every year he was facing more shots than any other goalie?
Yeah, and that's a huge thing that even Martin Brodeur said. He said when we interviewed him, he was like, I played on a really defensive team.
Right.
He's like, I didn't have to face a quarter of the rubber that Grant had, and he's like, so my shutoffs and things are very different to where Grant was. And, and here's the kicker that all the players that played with Grant said, that they'd never had another goaltender that played for the team like Grant did. Grant didn't play to get shutouts or goals against statistics. That wasn't his thing. Wins were the number one statistic he cared about. And he never got mad if, even the Oilers were winning 4-0 and they wanted to get a 5th and 6th goal. He didn't care if they, didn't come back and check and the goal went in. Grant could let a goal in and focus on the next one better than any goaltender. And that's why many, even other goaltenders we interviewed, said Grant is the ultimate money goalie. Because even if he let in 4 goals, but you needed that big save on the 5th one, he could let the other 4 goals, he could brush it off and let it go under the water, no problem, and make sure that he made that big save, which got you into a playoff spot or won the game or pushed into overtime better than any other goaltender that's played.
He's a winner.
You see that in a lot of goaltenders today. It's really interesting because I didn't notice it, so this was brought up when we were interviewing. This great thing about docs. You'll see a lot of goaltenders today do that where the goal goes in and they pretend like, how did that go in? And they're pretending like they didn't see it. And I'm like, even though the arena's cheering and the red light's going, they're like, how did that go in? Or they try to make a look out to their defenseman, like, you should have had that, or you screened me, or you blocked me. Grant never did that. That was never his thing. And even on a team that often, as they say, I'm not saying because they left him out to dry, right? Where it was him versus no one or 2-on-1 or whatever. He never did that in his career. He would just get the puck out of the net. Even on the Steve Smith goal, when Calgary, that notorious goal, everyone's like, how did you not get mad? And Grant had some big personal issues, and I'm not going to give away all the reveals of the film. But
no, don't. Yeah, please. I'm excited to see the film myself.
His father passed away that night. Was it?
Oh, God.
Or that afternoon. So he was like, he's like, everyone's like, how'd you not get mad at Steve Smith's goal? And he's like, I had much bigger things going on in my life at that time.
Yeah, and the way he played, I mean, the most assists by a goalie in a season too. Like they don't make him like Grant Fuhr anymore. You won't see a guy like him ever again. And
I'm giving another spoiler in the film. Wayne talks about this. Right? He said 1 year he got 14 assists, right? Which you're talking about, the leading. Where Grant would be so good that he'd see his winger on the far side. He would challenge the opponent, make the kick save out to the winger so they could have an odd man rush.
I mean, that's remarkable. That's
Semenk actually came into the dressing room, Dave Semenko, so his nickname Semenk, and was like, hey, Jersey, you need to stop doing that because you're making me look bad here that you have more assists as a goalie than I do as a winger.
Oh, rest in peace to Dave Semenko, too. I mean, what a legend and beautiful part he played in Ice Guardians.
Yeah, I know. We did a remembrance screening for him here in Edmonton. That we donated the money to charity and gave it to. I offered it to his family, but then they said, no, the Oilers done enough. You could please just give it to a local charity like kids sports or whatever to allow kids to play hockey. Yeah, I'm and sad because I was really looking forward to interviewing him for Making Coco.
Right.
When we heard that, it was a sad day because he's a tremendous human being. I didn't get to know Dave super well, but the little bit I knew, I loved spending time with him. He's a great guy.
And that goes back to another reason why Ice Guardians and Making Coco are so important because these guys, I mean, as sad as unfortunate as it is, they won't be around forever, but these films, I mean, I'll be able to play them for my grandkids, because I own the physical copy of Ice Guardians, so when the digital program falls, I'll still have my DVD player. But
and it's interesting with the hockey docs because physical is all but dead, but with hockey, because people are so used to collecting pucks and stuff like that, it's put my hockey doc in a really interesting space where, like, man, do we get the physical made? Like, we've already had to look at a memorabilia company taking care of the posters because we've got such a large demand for
you have to.
Making Coco posters that, like, I'm like, man, I don't know. Like, I'm a filmmaker. I don't know how to handle posters and frames and signing and what they should be going for. So I talked to Grant, and he's like, yeah, I'm all for it. So we're looking at getting, like, a poster company to be like, why don't you just handle the posters? Like, you take all the upfront costs and making it and manufacture and shipping and framing and just give us a percentage of the net profits, and then that way we can just direct people. Oh, you want a poster? Get it here. Oh,
I've said it a few times. I think that hockey fans are like the comic book nerds of the sports world. Like, I'm sitting at a desk right now in my studio, and there's probably 300 hockey cards mixed with beer cans on this desk. I mean, like, and I'm 31 years old. I shouldn't have all these hockey cards, but I do. Like, I have my basement, the autographs hanging up. Like, I love all that shit, man. I collect it. I'm just into it.
So that's a good analogy. I like that. And I think it's because hockey, for such a long, and even now, as much as I love the sport and as much as it's grown, but I'm being honest, it's a niche sport. If you're looking internationally and globally, it's really not that big compared to many other sports. So,
I'm an American, man. I mean, I know full well, because I could go. I mean, you might be able to walk around, say in Ohio where I live during the Stanley Cup, and people might not even know what's going on. I mean, I know it's different in Canada, but when the Super Bowl's happening, people know.
Yeah, I know. I experienced it. Or my aunt experienced that when she was in. She actually just as happenstance, she's a huge Oilers fan, probably one of the most dedicated, like, female hockey fans I know. And she just happened to be in Raleigh, North Carolina in 2006 when Edmonton was in Game 7 against and she's like, oh my God, she's like, we're going to win because how else would I be there? I've never been to Raleigh, but I'm there and it's Game 7. And they had to call like 30 bars to even find one that was playing it. And she's like, are you kidding me?
Oh yeah, it's insane.
Your team is in this Game 7. And like, people were like, oh, who? The Hurricanes? Like, nobody knew. And that's where she was like, and I know Carolina's a small market as it is, but it's definitely like in Canada, you can, here it's just such a, perfect example, I went to my son's he's a 12-year-old boy, 12 or 13, and it was his AA Pee-wee tryout for hockey, so he'd be 12, turning 13. And I'm shitting you not, there was 500 people to watch the evaluation tryouts
Good
for
God.
the 12-year-old double A PBT.
Good God.
We came in there and we're like, whoa. Like, I came in with my friend's son, or his dad, and even he was like, holy cow, look at all the people here. I'm like, I can't believe there's this many people here to watch an evaluation game.
That reminds me of where I can equate it as I was Danny Probert was coming on the show, and I was super excited to have her on. So I was like, let's do it Friday this time. And she's like, well, round 2, whatever, Predators versus Winnipeg's on that night. And I'm like, what? I mean, why the fuck do you care about that? She's like, well, I'm Canadian girl. And I was just like, I didn't even take it. I was like, well, I can just watch it later. But no, she was like, no, I'm going to watch the hockey games are on tonight. We can record later. It was just hilarious to me.
Yeah, it's different up here. We are definitely obsessed about it up here in Canada.
Now, the trailer is out now, and that's going around the internet like the plague, and everybody's loving it. I'm sure you've had a huge positive response. And you're playing in film festivals. Where are all the film festivals at that you're playing right now?
So we're heading. I'm actually flying up to Toronto tomorrow because we're playing during the Toronto International Film Festival.
Nice.
We're not in. We didn't officially get accepted, but it doesn't matter because we sold out. We're actually oversold right now and trying to go to some of our friends and family and be like, hey, listen, do you mind just coming to the after party? And then in Calgary, they offered us to be, that's where essentially our real world premiere is, September 29th at the Calgary International Film Festival, and they made us the closing night gala film. And I've never had that before. I've never been in opening or closing night gala presentation, so super excited. And that sold out like 5 days, sold out a month in advance, like done.
Nice.
The festival, like even our director and stuff's like, hey, Adam, where do we get tickets? I'm like, call the guy because it is sold out. And he's like, what? And like, I did something, anticipating, I didn't know it would sell out that quick. I thought it'd be like a week or two before the event, not a month.
Yeah.
But I did know it was going to sell out, knowing Alberta and hockey and Grant and
right.
the products we were able to put together. So I did, when they gave, the festival gives you like 10 to 20 comps. So they gave me 20 comps. And right away I gave him all the Grant. Because he's coming, right? He's flying in with his wife. And
nice.
I'm like, here, Grant, you take them for all your friends and family and former alumni from the Flames and whatever, right? Like, you take them for you. And then that way, anyone that asked me, like, people that worked on the production and stuff, they're like, hey, like, do you have an extra ticket? I'm like, nope.
Sure don't.
I gave them all the Grant, and I bought my own for me and my family.
Oh, there you go. Fucking smart guy.
If Adam bought them, then I guess I have to buy mine. and thank God I did, just because there's no extras now.
No shit, dude. Are any of the boys coming to Toronto for the film festival?
Yeah, so Toronto's going to be really cool guest list there. Like, we have, so our Q&A afterwards is going to have Kiprios, Iron Mike, Grant, and then Elliot Friedman, who's a big sports announcer here in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
He'll be moderating it. And then
cool.
Jamie McLennan's coming. Cabby is a big, like, internet guy here, interviews all the sports guys. Donovan Bailey, Canadian Olympic gold medalist. Whole bunch of these people are attending the premiere. It's going to be a really, really cool event.
Dude, that's fucking sweet, man. Now, I know during Ice Guardians you kind of would read the interviews. Did you do the same thing here for Making Coco?
I did for a few, but director Don Metz did a lot of them. He did the real personal interview with Grant, where Grant gets really emotional and Don was emotional. Both of them were crying. That was a very close set that day, and we had earphones when we were upstairs. So like, it was literally just a camera guy, Don, Grant, and the sound guy was hiding in the furnace room. And it worked because Grant was super emotional that day and really shared his soul. But it's funny, I did get to do the Great Ones interview because here's a good lesson for anyone in any walks of life is always be prepared. Is we finally, Wayne had confirmed to sit down, and he said, and his team's like, you have 18 minutes. Oh, yeah. And we're like, okay, we'll be done in 15, right?
Yeah.
But he walks in 1 hour early.
Wayne did?
Yeah. He's like, you guys ready? And we're like,
fuck no.
Thankfully we were. Now normal, we were. We were. So
wow.
Now, normally our lighting takes 2 to 2.5 hours to set up because it's a theatrical doc, cameras, lighting, sound checks, all that stuff. thankfully, we came in super early that day because we want to be prepared because we knew we only had 18 minutes and we got everything set up. And we're just sitting there waiting. And Wayne shows up and he's like, "Yeah, you guys ready?" And we're like, "Well, just waiting on Don, our director, because Don was driving in. He's like, I won't be there for 40 minutes. We were planning on getting Wayne an hour later. I'm like, well, he's here now, and he doesn't want to wait. So I got thrown in. I got to interview the great one, which for a Canadian boy growing up as an Edmonton Oilers fan, that was even all the great people I've got to sit down and interview and ask questions for. It was pretty special.
Is he?
Sit down and get thrown in there.
Is he how I imagine it? Like it's like talking to like an alien. Like he is like not human. Because I feel like I wouldn't be able to like even have a conversation with him. I don't think I could do it. Or is he just a normal dude?
I mean, I know I've done enough interviews and worked with enough celebrities that like I know how to pull myself out of those moments and just focus on what's happening. But I mean, it was very surreal, and I did pinch myself. And I made sure, I'm like, guys, make sure you get an interview of me interviewing him, so you see me in the shot interviewing him, right? Like,
yeah.
But you want to talk about a consummate professional? Like, I wasn't sure how much of Wayne's. You never know with every interview, right? How much you're going to actually use in the final cut. But I can say for a fact that out of every interview we've ever done, we probably used more content from that 18-minute interview that actually made the cut than any. Like, I swear we used 10 minutes of his interview in the film.
I can believe it.
So good. Like, when he just turned it on, especially to talk about Grant, he just, like, when he went to turn it on, he's like, "Hey, you guys ready? You ready?" Like, his request for his time, when you hang around him, has got to, like, I don't know how it doesn't wear on any human being. I mean, that guy is getting pulled in every direction, 24/7. Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you sign this? Can you take a picture here? Can you do this endorsement deal? Can you do, like I swear his own family's probably, like, scheduling when they can pull to get him on time, like, and just asking questions. Like, seriously, like, everybody wants something from him. So he's so used to just being like, "Okay, here at this time, and here at this time, and here at this time," and then boom, go.
And
right? And he, when he went to turn it on, though, he was money.
Because I'm sure, being the great one, he knows like anything he says at any given time is going to be remembered forever. If it's not by the person in the room, it's recorded. So it just seems like he wouldn't even waste his time with words unless he knew it was, like a hat trick. Like, he's just that kind of dude. Like, he's just going to kill it no matter what he's doing. If you're asking him a question, he's going to kill the answer. If he's talking back to you, like, he always seems so formidable and just down to the T, but he still seems like a dude's dude, and like, you just can't help but love the guy.
Yeah, it's a childhood dream to be able to. It was one of those days, again, I pinched myself afterwards, being like, man, like, I used to just watch him and Grant and those guys on TV, and now I'm telling their story. And even the relationship, like Grant, obviously he's another thing I do as a producer, which pisses producers off if they hear today, is that I partner with the people I do films with rather than just trying to license their life rights.
Right.
I find it's a much better relationship and everything being transparent. That's just how I operate. So for me, if anything ever changes in the production schedule or the budget, it's easy because you're so transparent and honest with your client that they say, "Oh yeah, I get it, Adam, their struggles." But Grant, I mean, he's such a sweetheart of a man. Like, you honestly couldn't meet a nicer guy, and the relationship we built. Like, he called me yesterday and he was so excited. He's like, "Adam," he's like, "I knew we'd get some buzz and exposure, but I didn't know it would quite be like this."
Oh, the trailer has got everybody amped up.
Yeah, I was like, he's like, "Man, I didn't think Calgary would sell out like a month in advance." He's like, "My phone's blowing up with people asking where I can get tickets." And I'm like, "Hey, Grant, it's a good problem to have." And that's where you're able to say to them, like, "Hey, you'll have to catch it on TV because it's sold out."
Now, I know you mentioned earlier on the golf course with Grant, and in the hockey world, he's known to be pretty much a killer out there on the links. Did you get to swing with him a little bit? Is he really that good, as good as I hear he is?
I didn't get to play. I was just driving the golf cart and making sure the cameras were where they should be and the beer was cold. But I didn't actually get to play. But he is a killer out there. He is a tremendous golfer. to the fact where when he was on the golf course to make it more competitive, he was using his irons from the tee boxes to make it more competitive.
You gotta love being around dudes like that. You know what I mean?
If you guys are ever playing a charity golf tournament and Grant and all these other players are there, and there's actually like cool prizes to be won, pick Grant Fuhr as your partner.
Oh, yeah.
And you have a really good shot of winning.
So I've just got a few more for you, and I can get you on your way. I know you probably have to go make 6 more movies tonight. But
I'm also picking up the kids today, but I do have some other media interviews, which my wife just loves. So many right now.
I'm sure, man. When can we see the movie in the States here?
So that's an interesting one right now. I don't have a hard answer, but what I can promise your audience is that it will eventually be available on all the platforms.
Good.
Of course, making the big pushes right now. We're trying to get a Netflix deal. Showtime is interested in it. We have some big buyers to see who's going to broadcast it first, because you always want to try to get that deal first, and then you do your transactional stuff afterwards, your VOD, your Amazon, your Google Play, Vimeo, all those platforms. So it's up in the air right now. We were trying to get all of these buyers come to the premiere in Toronto to watch it. So I wish I had a hard date for you, but I don't know. I know we are looking at doing a world premiere, or U.S. premiere, I should say, in St. Louis.
Yeah.
Grant, that's where he really bounced back and broke some NHL records, and everybody had written him off, and really solidified that Cinderella story for his career. And Blues are just such a fantastic organization. I mean, when I worked there with Ice Guardians and Kelly Chase, obviously being with your friend, and it's, and we definitely want to go back there for St. Louis. It's become really special.
Good.
And then I'm thinking that probably early in the new year is going to be available for the general public.
Perfect, man. Yeah, that's...
Our deadline is probably like early in the new year.
Yeah, that's absolutely perfect, man. I can't wait to see it. And St. Louis seems like a good place to premiere it there, too. Like you said, that a record that will never be beat, ever, 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 is 79 games in 1995.
No, and then especially when the next year he played 73 on a completely rebuilt knee that was supposed to be career-ending.
It's stupid.
Injury. Right? Like that's another thing a lot of people said is Grant could be the toughest goalie they've ever played with. Like, the guy had shoulder surgeries when he was really young that he overcame, and then he played in St. Louis. Like Glenn Anderson says, like, I'd almost call it abuse versus like he played where he was in a tub of ice after every game, and then on that rebuild knee. And after he got the surgery, he actually had that. When he went back to training camp, and everyone even couldn't believe he's back there. They're like, "What? He's back at training camp?" And when he was going down to make saves, you could feel the screw smacking into his knee. So he went to the hospital. I can feel the screw. And they're like, okay. And he said it was really unmedical. They just took a scalpel, cut a neck, lift the flap up, took a Black & Decker drill, and just pulled the screw out of his knee.
What?
Let him go.
What?
Yeah. And then he said he felt better after that. And then he played 73 consecutive games that year.
What the fuck? Dude, that's insane.
Yeah, he is like, but because Grant is such a like an even keel, calm, like not aggressive personality, like that's where you often forget how tough he was as a player and his injuries he overcame. Like that's when we heard that from other players. Like I've never seen a goaltender go through it. I don't even think the PA. I don't even think you can play like Grant did. I don't even think it's allowed now. I don't think players are allowed to play that many games and through those injuries and stuff like that. But for Grant, it just wasn't an option. He tried to play actually when he got that injury from Cyprios in the playoffs. He actually tried to put on a brace and play.
Man.
And they're like, "Are you insane? Your MC." Like, I don't know all the different ACLs out there, but like the ACL, MC, like he tore them all. So no, there's no way he could play, but he tried.
Wow, man. Do you have any more hockey films down the barrel coming out? Anything brewing in the old Scorgie camp?
No, there's been a few presented my way, and I'm always interested because I'm a hockey fan, but there's nothing that's solidified or in writing that, I don't want to look like an idiot and say, I'm working on this one, then it doesn't happen, right? Or somebody else gets it. So, but I must say after, the respect amongst the players with Ice Guardians, and then, the buzz we're getting with making Coco. The word is out in the NHL community, and people are coming after myself and my team to do other hockey films, which is fine by me.
I believe it, man. You're kind of the go-to for that medium now, man. I know you're an Oilers fan. I know it was a rough season last year. What do you think's going to happen this year, bud?
I wish I had higher hopes. I'm still excited about the season. I'm excited, obviously, to watch McDavid because I think he's just magic out there.
Yeah.
And I think there's some players that really had, I think because that pressure is put on them by Vegas that they're expected to win the Cup, and the year before they weren't expecting anything and they really overachieved.
Right.
That I think you're going to see some guys have some bounce back years. Everybody's hard on Lucic. I'm a big Lucic fan. He came to support me during the Semenko Memorial. I love tough guys like him still surviving in the NHL. So I think Lucic is going to have a big bounce back year this year, and I'm a big fan. I hope Draisaitl does too. I'm not a fan, but I'm hoping he bounces back. And then I think Talbot too is going to have a big bounce back year.
Talbot's the key, right?
In goal, and I think that'll be a big difference, for them if they can squeak out. The teams are so competitive now. There's on any given night, any team can win. There's no gimmies anymore. And if Talbot's at the top of his game,
they're hard to beat.
McDavid's healthy. That's another thing. I don't know. A lot of people that aren't Oilers fans, and even though McDavid won the scoring race, he was incredibly ill all year last year and didn't let anybody know. He had mono. He had a really bad case of the flu that they couldn't break. He had a whole bunch of things, but he didn't say it until after the season because he didn't want it to be an excuse for him or the team for them not succeeding.
No, I didn't know that.
That's why kind of in the, I know, no one. It was really, it shows you the trooper you have there. Not only is he generational in his talent, he's generational in his attitude. There's a lot of these young guys now that have a lot of talent, but they have the attitude like, yeah, I'm the $40 million player, and I carry my own bag, and my gloves all nicely dried for me. And he is I got to meet him when I was doing Ice Guardians with Gazdick. He is an absolutely stand-up individual, hell of a young man, super talented, and I am excited to see him hit the ice. I have season tickets this year too, but as an Oilers fan, we always like to prepare ourselves, just prepare for the worst, and if things get good, great.
Hell yeah, man, that's perfect. I do a thing here on the show, and it's called the Fuck Boy of the Week, and I usually give it to, somebody in the hockey world that just kind of needs a little jab in the ribs. And this one actually is going to somebody in the NFL. I don't know if you've heard about this or not. It's been going around the last couple weeks. But Jalen Ramsey of the Jacksonville Jaguars had recently been...
Oh, yes.
recently quoted as saying he could make the NHL if it 6 months of practice he would be in the NHL. I just wanted to get your thoughts on there because I know you went to high school with dudes that were in billet families playing at the top level in the WHL. You've been around NHL players. You played the game yourself. You have a daughter in the game. How did you take it when you read that Jalen Ramsey thinks he can make the NHL in 6 months?
I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Right.
Right? That anyone would say that about any sport. A guy needs to grow up. I would honestly love to just put him, honestly, without the physical, I'd love to put him on my daughter's AA Pee-wee team, and I'd love to see him get smoked after 6 months of training. Seriously. The amount of work and effort you have to put in just to learn how to skate, like, I don't care how good of an athlete you are, like, you just... It's always the argument I have with any sport. I think it's ridiculous when people say I could come and do this, and no, you couldn't. The same with, like, one of the biggest ones you also get this in is with, like, martial arts, right? If people are like, I was tough on the street and stuff, like, yeah, you beat up drunks who didn't know how to fight, and you were an athlete. So, yeah, that's not competitive. But when you fight world-class fighters that have trained for 22 years in their respective martial art, it is not the same thing, right? There's cardio, pacing, footwork, head movement, all this stuff that comes into play. It's crazy to think anyone can just go to another sport and crack a professional team. I know hockey is a niche sport, as we were talking about earlier in the podcast, but the talent level, I can tell you, going to my daughter's hockey academy, these 12 and 13-year-old boys, if they were playing in the 60s, man, like they would get drafted. It's amazing
Right.
how talented these kids are now. And even some of the coaches my daughter works with that, had a sniff of the NHL but played in Europe and stuff like that. Like these guys they can skate on like one skate, bounce the puck 10 times and crack it into the top left corner every time. Like, and then you're telling me that you're going to crack and this is a coach, one of my daughter's coaches that, he played in Europe for 10 years and could never quite get to the NHL. And I'm like, you're going to tell me that you're going to crack the NHL over a guy like this in your 6 months of training? Good luck.
Right. It was insulting. I think he just wanted some attention. There's no way he actually thinks that.
That's what I mean. Like even the size and stuff. Like maybe. Like I can't think that he's that naive. Again, I do think it's a publicity stunt.
Right.
It got a lot of traction, especially from all the hockey blogs. But I mean, even if you're naive to think, well, my size and physicality, like I could just crush people on the ice. But the little bit I've skated when I was younger and now, like if you understand, like when a guy knows how to skate, you can go after him like a bull all you want, and he just pivots, and then you're in the boards, right?
Yeah.
Or he just like eagle turns around you, and there's guys that like off ice, like I can manhandle them for strength. I mean, I boxed competitively, wrestled. But on the ice, we would just like physically push each other, and just the dynamics and balance is so different that you push, and they just do a little tug, and you're on your face, and they like. For example, when we were filming Ice Guardians, I'll end my rant here, we had Eric Goddard up there who, people would be like, force or plug, can't skate. And my buddy Jeff that played competitive hockey until he was in his midgets, right? Like played midget AA, great skater, still plays men's league and stuff like that. And I'm like, hey guys, you need you guys just to pretend tussle. Don't actually hit each other, but just like pulling jerseys and stuff. And my buddy Jeff was getting in tremendous shape, and Eric had, not been skating much or whatever. And just the body positioning and Eric pulling him to the side and shifting his weight, you would have thought my buddy Jeff had run a marathon after 10 minutes. He was exhausted.
Oh, for sure.
And Eric was laughing, right? Being like, and Jeff's like, well, dude, you try to jersey with like a pro tough guy, right? Like, and Eric we had several other guys that cracked the NHL too, and they were all up there skating to get us some B-roll footage that we wanted. And Eric looked, and everyone kept being like, where did he play? And like, he was a tough guy. And they're like, holy shit, can he ever move, right? Like, and and Eric was considered one of the guys that didn't deserve to be there. But I can tell you, out of all the guys that skated that day, you're the skated circles around them.
Oh yeah, that's what. Like, I think Parks played a couple, just recreational. Scott Parker, a couple recreational games like last year, and people were like, "Oh, this guy can move like he played in the NHL." I'm like, "Yeah, fuckhead, he played in the like." Do you think like? He can't skate better than anybody in your entire state? Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, if you run into 100 ice skaters, Eric Goddard or Scott Parker are going to be better than probably all of them. They played in the fucking NHL. You don't even get close to that level unless you can skate like that.
Exactly.
All right, man. Well, thank you, and I'll let you get on your way, and I really appreciate the time, and I wanted to do the 100th episode specifically with you with, making Coco coming out and all that, and I wanted to, I had to pull out the red carpet for number 100, man.
Well, thank you. I'm proud and happy to be the 100. Thanks for having me on.
And what do you have coming out besides making Coco? Just follow you on Twitter and Instagram and all that good shit?
Yeah, we're in post-production on Inmate Number 1, The Rise of Danny Trejo, and then just wrapped most of the filming for the Bailey Experience, which is about Olympic gold medalist Donovan Bailey, and then we're about to begin production of the recount about Michael Bisping, the UFC champion, a former champion. So we're busy. Things are good. You're
doing what with Bisping now? You're doing a movie on Bisping?
Yeah, doing a feature-length doc on Bisping.
Holy shit, dude! That's every time I think I'm doing a lot, I go, "Well, what's Scorgie doing?" That's how you got to compare. It's like there's Rogan, then Scorgie, and then everyone else.
Oh, I don't know. Well, if you even be putting that echelon with Rogan, that's a hell of a compliment. Thank you. I'm poking him to get back on there, but I'm happy if Bisping gets back on there because they're going to talk about the documentary and stuff like that. So looking forward. Me and Joe need to reconnect. He's kind of the guy that really helped kick off my career with the union shit.
For sure, that's where I first heard of you. I mean, if you're alive and you're not listening to Rogan, I don't know what the hell you're doing.
Yeah, I know. I do that too. I was saying, I probably bring up things I've learned or experienced or ways I've changed myself from this podcast like 3 or 4 times a week. I remember when I was first getting into it before it became like a cultural thing.
Yeah.
People would literally say to me, they're like, if you bring up Joe Rogan's podcast one more time, seriously.
That sounds
like, man, you gotta listen. There's great shit on there.
That sounds like my wife. I'll be like, yeah, I'm done eating corn now. She'd be like, what did Joe Rogan say? Don't eat corn. I'm like,
I gotta get rolling here, my friend. I just picked up my little man from school, and I got some other stuff to get ready for the premiere. But thank you again for having me on for the 100th episode. I really appreciate it.
All right, Biscuit Babies, there it was, episode 100. I didn't want to do any ads off the top. I wanted to get straight into Scorgie, and now I just want to give some thanks and some acknowledgments to people that have helped the podcast get to where it is. 100 episodes is pretty crazy. Coming up on 3 years here. First off, I want to thank all the sponsors I've had, everyone from Shitty Coolers to Lucid Float Spas out of Mount Vernon, Ohio, and Chad, to the new partnership I have with the guys over at Hairless Ape Conspiracy, the clothing company. Thanks for believing in the podcast and supporting the podcast. Thanks to Shane Guilfoyle and Alan Gower and his wife Michelle Gower for certain equipment donations to the podcast to keep the show going and to make the show sound as good as it does too. A special thank you to those guys. And a special thank you to Francesca Parker at parkersplatoon.org for all the constant support and help there too. But yeah, I just got a list of people I want to mention that have either been on the show or helped the show, The Biscuit, to this point. So thanks to Coop, Scott Hyatt of Bridesmaids and Akula. Be sure to go get Akula's new album. I think it's about to drop on vinyl any day now. The infamous Brogan Flanagan, the aforementioned Alan and Michelle Gower, Shane Guilfoyle, Stanley Cup champion Scott the Sheriff Parker, Adam Scorgie, who you heard today on the 100th. Thank you to him. Darren from the Fourth Line Voice. Always thank you to him, one of my favorite people on the planet. And you'll hear from him after these reads here, because he sent in a special message for the 100th episode. Griffin the Beard and all the listeners in the UK, thanks a lot, guys. Joe Bartnick, Dr. Victoria Silverwood, Farmer Rob, The Gatekeeper, George Matarangas, Deeker, Daniel Brown, Brian Anderson, Andy Picaro, and Colin Chamberlain. Thanks a lot, guys. Mark Alfred Jr., my brother from another mother. Cheers to you, bud. Kevin Young, Chris Banatee. Big special thank you to Chris Banatee. He's always there in a pinch, and I've gotten to know him a little bit, and I've really liked getting to know Chris. Ken Bulkey and the Sin Bin guys. Stephen Bentley, Dan Stevenson, Giles Farrell, Trevor Beggs, Mike Grinnell, a.k.a. Grinelli, Sophia Agostinelli, Drew Long and Thick Johnson, Riley Cote, Kwame Mason, Danny Probert. Thank you to Val James, David M. Singer, Derek Helling, Nick Fleehart, and Earl Skakel. And my older brother Brennan, my co-host sometimes when he's not fired, Big Ran. My lovely wife, who without her, this show would not be possible. To my children, Emery, Arwen, and Francesca, I thank you guys too, and I love you guys. I know sometimes it's hard when I have to go record for an hour or two, but they're all smiles when I'm done. And Emery's in the intro too. He's the little biscuit voice at the end there. And thanks to everyone who listens. I really appreciate it. Thanks for rating and reviewing. The show has grown beyond my wildest dreams. So I really thank you guys. Everyone in the United States, Canada, the UK, Australia, all over the world. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. And here's a special message from Darren in the Fourth Line Voice. Make sure to go listen to his podcast. And like he says at the end, here's 100 more. Thanks, guys.
The champ is here! The champ is
That's right. The champ is here. This is Darren from the Fourth Line Voice podcast. And I just wanted to, I couldn't be on the show today, so I wanted to send a congratulations to William and to the Biscuit on your 100th episode. You've come a long way. I remember the first time I listened to William, I think it was around episode 17 or so. It was entitled Worst Hockey Podcast Ever, or Worst Hockey Podcast Episode Ever. And I listened to it, and one of his things was, if anybody could listen this entire episode, to get a hold of him and he'll send you something. And I believe the old story went, I think 5 people listened, and I was actually one of them. And I actually did send him a direct message, said, hey dude, I listened to your whole show, and he offered me something, and whatever it was, I didn't take it, but, he amused me then, and he still amused me now. You've come a long way since then, and I tune into all your shows, and you do a great job. And despite Big Ran's best efforts to sink the show, the anchor around your neck that is the albatross known as Big Ran. I know what it's like. I have a younger brother, so I know what it's like. The youngest ones, they're like, fungus on a shower curtain. You try to get rid of, you scrub and scrub to try to get rid of them, and they just keep coming back, but, they're family, so you got to stick up for them, right? From womb to tomb, the Bartrams will stick together, so we keep employing Big Ran. He gets fired, bring him back, but, we're still here. But 100th episode. Well, I got a gift on the way. I paid a little extra. You got to pay big money for a Sherpa to hike that to Belleville. So it'll get there in time. I was gonna send something. I'm trying to send something to Big Ran, but I mean, go to the post office and you tell them you're sending something to Sturgis, Michigan. They look at you like you got a turd hanging out of your mouth. They go on Google Maps and no one can find it. It just keeps saying destination unknown. Little yellow guy is just doing circles. So, I mean, I don't know. If he ever moves to civilization or something, plus they don't deliver to shanties. He doesn't have a fixed address. They won't take it, just attention Randy, he send it to the Jiffy Lube. So, and actually while I'm sending out the thanks though, I'd like to thank, William's neighbor in Belleville there, one of the 4, it's a real stroke of luck that William managed to move into one of the 4 people that own, Wi-Fi in Ohio. And the neighbor is nice enough to give him the password. So that's really worked out well for the show. But, here, hold on. This is for William. You have to, right? Yeah. So here's to the boys for number 100. To William and to Big Ran. Big Ran, the Tito of the Bartram 5. No, in all seriousness though, I've just got my show up and going, and I'm only 5 episodes in, and I've wanted to quit 6 times already. I've had divorce papers drawn up twice. So to the other folks, to just the listeners out there, it's hard to, I know how hard it is to, I now know how hard it is to, create a podcast and to edit it, to get guests and to get the time and everything else. And like I said, I'm only 5 in, and I've already, pulled out some hair and yelled and screamed and flipped a few things already. And, so to make it to 100, that's a hell of a lot. That's a hell of a lot of dedication. And, in all seriousness, I joke and stuff, but, William's you guys have always been, great to me. Like I said, I've been on 5 times, and, I've always had fun, and I will always appreciate, and I remember the fact that William, he was one of the first shows to have me on as a regular guest to run my mouth and to yap, and, I always appreciate that. And, here's to 100 more. All right, man. Well, I hope you have a good 100th show. And for everybody listening, William's a good dude. I talked to him a lot behind the scenes, and he's helped me a lot on my stuff. And can't thank you enough. So in all seriousness, congratulations on the 100th show. And like I said, to 100 more. Cheers, boys. Have a good one.